No matter who you are or what you do, if you're a hard rock or heavy metal fan and somebody mentions the name Metallica, there's a good chance that it's going to cause some sort of reaction. Whether it's one of universal acclaim or immediate dismissal, Metallica is a group whose fan base has certainly provided them with that instantaneous response, almost like having a QA department that is literally worldwide. And that was definitely on display whenever Hardwired, the first single from Hardwired to Self-Destruct, which is due out in November, was premiered last month. And it's definitely opened up a lot of different questions. What's the remainder of the album going to sound like? This is one of the shortest songs that we've heard from Metallica in quite some time, if not ever. What does this all mean? Well, this is a band that certainly has gotten a little bit more press coverage ever since that song was premiered. However, Lars Ulrich in a recent interview may have given us some of the information that we actually wanted to hear. You know, some of the things that we actually needed to understand, considering most of the stories before this were simply asking the band, does this sound like a true Metallica song? Well, yeah, of course it does. They're the band, they wrote the thing, they performed the thing. It's not like they had Barry Manilow come in to write Hardwired. But at any rate, Lars Ulrich stated in an interview that this is an album where, lyrically speaking at least, they explored some themes that involved relationships, which, whenever you read that, you almost immediately start to, second-guess things a little bit. Because as good of a song as Nothing Else Matters is the first 15 times, if the rest of this album is Nothing Else Matters with Hardwired as this tease at the beginning, it wouldn't exactly be a very good experience. However, Lars would continue to say that he was exploring more of the darker senses of relationships, and not necessarily romantic ones, the ones that we have with just about anybody that we meet, with different folks that we have in our lives, including the darker relationships that we have within ourselves. And that sounds a whole heck of a lot more promising, considering whenever you explore some of those darker semblances or those darker moments that perhaps we all notice in our lives from a day-to-day basis but maybe don't tell people about, it definitely can provide a little bit more, lyrical panache, a little bit more of that je ne sais quoi that made Metallica definitely beloved by millions and, still respected icons in the heavy metal display. So he also went one step further to say that whenever the band was performing Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning, whether in their entirety or performing more of the songs off of those albums in concerts over the past couple of years, preparing for anniversaries and things of that variety, it kind of made them, as a band, collectively go back and look at what made those albums so poignant, what gave it so much power. And the one thing that they discovered was that they were a little bit more linear. They weren't necessarily songs on an album that were trying to, go into all of these different progressive directions, kind of go from one place to the next, from this direction to that direction, and just sort of all meet back in the middle at the end. These were straightforward, direct assaults. And because of that, Lars has stated that that is something that was able to inject itself into the writing sessions for Hardwired to Self-Destruct. Now, naturally speaking, considering this is a 2-album set, we can assume that these tracks are going to be a little bit longer. It's not like Hardwired is going to be copy-pasted, the remainder of the times on this album for the other 9 tracks, and we're going to have a 2-disc set that actually only spans about, 30 minutes. It's definitely not something that's going to happen. But I really like the information that we can take away from this, and I think a lot of Metallica fans that have perhaps been clamoring for a little bit of that old-school approach that didn't feel like Death Magnetic really gave it enough, well, they might be encouraged by this news. But we have to remember that a little bit earlier this year, Lars also said that this was an album that was going to be a very multifaceted affair. It was going to showcase a lot of different sides of this band. So maybe this is just one side that we're going to see. And it's a side that perhaps we're only going to see with 2 or 3 songs. Either that, or at least within the approach of how these songs were constructed. It's hard to say, but either way, I think it's an encouraging sign. But wait, there's more. That wasn't the only piece of Metallica news that we got today. We also got the Kids React to Metallica, another Fine Brothers abortion that has certainly emerged, and it's meant to really cause these, dissenting and conflicting opinions about, oh my God, what's wrong with the children? What's wrong with the children? What a generation gap that we live in today. The title is really kind of more of a misnomer than anything else. It's kids that the Fine Brothers have brought together to push an agenda about Metallica react to Metallica. Yeah, that's pretty much all that you really need to know about that. This is something where they're presenting a topic that is popular among hard rock and heavy metal fans, that being the band Metallica, and it's a controversial opinion. It's an opinion that's going to get people talking. It's going to get them, being really outraged by this, so they're going to share it with everybody. The shares lead to views. The views lead to ad revenue. The ad revenue leads to profit, and I don't really need to spell out the Underpants Gnomes philosophy of how to make money from South Park. Yeah, don't worry too much about this. Don't let it get snot all over your keyboard, or don't let your blood flow from your veins because you think there's no hope for tomorrow, because there's plenty of hope for tomorrow, believe me, ladies and gentlemen. This is just sensationalism. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I want to know what you think about what Lars had to say about Hardwired to Self-Destruct, because whenever it comes this fall, man, oh man, I'm expecting big things from this disc. Do you think that this is promising news about the writing for this album? Are you excited for Hardwired to Self-Destruct? Let me know in the comments below, because I want to hear from you. My name is coverkillernation, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.